In the port of New York, two operators, Neil and Dominique, are finishing repairs on a 1920s vessel called Mortimer. The guy takes the opportunity to remove the plate from the old ferry, as it is a valuable item that can be sold for a good price. As soon as he finishes removing the plate, Neil ends up opening a compartment door and the pressure causes them both to be thrown backwards. The operator says everything is fine, but Dominique suspects she saw something come out of the opening. Suddenly, a mysterious being passes in front of the operator, who feels a strong blow to the head and falls to the ground. Her colleague tries to help her, but in front of them, a small creature appears, which seems to have the paws of a rat. Without hesitation, it attacks Neil and removes his ear with its sharp teeth. Desperate, Dominique tries to flee, but when she reaches the engine room, she sees that the creature is nearby and is forced to turn back. However, she ends up stepping on Neil's ear and slips into the compartment, which turns out to be the creature's lair. Recovering from her fall, Dominique looks into the opening and sees the monster, in the shape of a huge rat, leaping towards her. Far away, a young woman called Selena runs towards the Staten Island terminal. There, she meets Pete, one of the ship's attendants, who, seeing the girl's nervousness, asks her if she's running away from someone. Selena explains that she was working as a waitress at a birthday party. However, Cindy, the birthday girl, and her friends followed her to continue the party in the streets, but Selena just wanted to take the ferry home. Pete then tells her to go to the lower deck, while he thinks of a way to distract the girls. Seconds later, Cindy and her friends show up asking for Selena, but the guy says she must have gone to the upper deck and the girls decide to go after her on the ship. As soon as all the crew have boarded the ferry, Captain Bill announces that the voyage will begin shortly. However, he receives a message from Mike, the command center operator, asking him to suspend disembarkation because heavy fog is covering the route. However, the captain tells him that he won't wait, as he's been working for hours and wants to get home as soon as possible. The trip is then authorized, but Mike warns that because of the fog, he will be incommunicado until he reaches the next port. As soon as the ship sets sail, the passengers arrange themselves in their seats, including a nurse called Amber. She finds Barry, an old acquaintance, asleep in his chair, but suddenly the guy grabs her hand, saying that the ship is cursed. The nurse, however, doesn't care and just hands Barry an energy drink to get him through the rest of the trip. Meanwhile, on the lower deck, Selena is still in hiding when she receives a visit from Pete. The young woman thanks him for his help and the two talk about their goals in life. While Pete wants to achieve recognition by working on the ferry, Selena has written down her goals in a notebook, but has so far been unable to achieve them. The conversation continues, while in another part of the ship, a young man wearing a Statue of Liberty costume goes to another deck to make himself more at home. Suddenly, he hears someone whistling, but finds no one nearby. When he gets back to his seat, he realizes that his mask has ended up in the aisle and goes to pick it up. He thinks he'd better leave the mask on, but the rat appears behind him and attacks his legs, causing him to fall to the ground. The creature then uses the torch he is holding and strikes it behind the victim's head. Minutes later, Selena goes to the bathroom and is startled to be approached by Nurse Amber, who says she has found her notebook lying on the floor. Selena thanks her, but as soon as the nurse leaves, she throws the notebook in the trash, because she no longer cares about her goals or New York City. After that, she leaves the bathroom, without realizing that in one of the cabins, the rat was inside, finishing devouring its victim. The voyage continues and one of the policemen on the ferry goes to do a routine check when he hears a Mickey Mouse-like laugh. When he looks at the ladder, he sees someone climbing up quickly and goes to investigate, but soon afterwards, the guy is hit on the foot by a hammer and falls to the ground. The blow causes him to drop his weapon, and when he tries to take it back, he is attacked once again with a hammer blow to the hand. Finally, he sees the rat and shouts for help, but only Selena, who was passing by, hears his call and runs to investigate what's going on. As she approaches the stern of the ship, she sees the rat, wearing pants with suspenders, holding the policeman by the leg and releasing him towards the ship's propellers. In a few seconds, the policeman's head is destroyed and the rat turns its attention to the girl. Selena panics at this scene, but the rat falls in love with her at first sight and even offers what's left of the policeman as a present. However, the young woman rushes away when she comes across Officer Diaz, alongside Pete and Amber. She claims to have seen a huge rat eliminating the policeman, and as expected, no one believes her story. Nevertheless, Diaz asks Amber to take the girl to safety and sets off in search of his missing colleague. Meanwhile, in the command room, Captain Bill notices that the fog is worse than expected. He tries to contact the command center, but before he can, he sees several photos of past captains stuck together on the wall. Bill has no idea who did it, but in a moment of distraction, the rat attacks him from behind, using a steel rope to knock him out. The captain tries to break free, but the creature uses all its strength and ends up destroying the man's neck. As soon as the victim loses consciousness, the rat finishes him off, using the rope to remove his head. Now that it has control of the ship, the monster uses the rudder to change course and starts whistling, to the tune of the same song Mickey played in one of his first animated films. However, this version of the famous Disney mascot doesn't want to entertain the public, but rather leave a trail of evil wherever he goes. Shortly afterwards, Tommy, the second in command, arrives at the cabin and finds the captain's head. He is shocked by the scene, but soon realizes that he has become the new captain and decides to take control of the situation. He then orders Pete, now the Pharaoh's first mate, to take all the crew down to the lower deck so that they don't know what happened. Officer Diaz will have to help him with this, as well as tracking down the person responsible for eliminating the captain. Meanwhile, the creature is exploring the other decks when it finds two of Cindy's friends taking photos and recording videos on their cell phones. Without thinking twice, the rat finds a forklift and starts it up, advancing towards the girls. Before they can escape, the creature lifts the iron forks from the vehicle and strikes them into the young women, quickly eliminating them. At that moment, Nurse Amber was passing by and saw everything, discovering that Selena's story was real. She runs to warn the young woman, just as Pete and the rest of the team tell the passengers to head for the lower deck. With everyone inside, Pete, Amber and Selena try to get on, but find the door locked from the inside. This only makes the passengers more nervous, and in the midst of the confusion, one of the ferry employees lets slip that the captain has been eliminated. A riot breaks out on the spot, with everyone believing that the ship is under attack. Officer Diaz tells everyone to calm down and gives a motivational speech, saying that no matter what happens, they will survive this together. However, he is the first to be eliminated inside the deck, with the rat going through his neck with a broomstick. When they see the creature, all the crew set out to attack it, but it defends itself using the fire hose. With the entire deck flooded, the rat throws the hose at the power box, causing everyone to be electrocuted. Faced with this chaos, Amber, Pete and Selena flee to another deck, where they find Cindy asleep on one of the benches. After this scare, the group decides to go to the command center to get in touch with the radio and get the ship back to port. At the same moment, the rat continues to look for more victims, when he comes across a counter with several bottles of beer. He wants to take one, but his keen sense of smell picks up the scent of another crew member, who appears to be alive. The crew member is a boy called Mateo, who managed to escape with the help of his mother, but she ended up being knocked out by the electric shock. Fortunately, before the rat finds him, Moses, another passenger, appears and takes Mateo to safety. In another part of the ship, a young woman called Jamie, who hadn't been to the lower deck, finds a policeman asleep on the bench. She warns him that there's something wrong with the lights and asks for his help to see what's going on. When he arrives in the staff room, the officer pulls out his gun, but realizes that the place is empty and the fuse box is working normally. In fact, Jamie already knew the policeman and lured him into the room so that the two of them could enjoy a romantic moment without anyone seeing them. Unluckily for them, the evil rat was hiding in one of the cupboards, and with a swipe of its blade, it hit the policeman in a very sore spot. The guy's blood spreads all over the room and Jamie tries to run away, but the creature wastes no time and hits her in the neck. In another part of the ship, Selena and the rest of the group make their way to the captain's cabin, but end up getting separated from Cindy. The young woman decides to go back to look for her, when she comes across Mateo and Moses. The crew member explains that he managed to survive the electric shock thanks to the construction boots he was wearing. Pete then calls them together to go to the captain's cabin, where Tommy is trying to fix the radio and get in touch with the command center. Seconds later, he hears a noise in the living room and goes to check it out, only to find the rat holding a huge tube television. Without giving Tommy time to react, the rat throws the television at the guy, completely destroying his head. At the same time, Cindy walks alone through the corridors of the ship, and because she drank too much on her birthday, she only realizes now that she has been separated from the group. The young woman tries to contact them on her cell phone, but it doesn't give her a signal. And Cindy continues down the corridor, unaware that the rat is after her. Finally, the young woman reaches the outside area and gets some signal on her cell phone. Thanks to this, she receives a photo taken by one of her friends, and when she looks closely, she sees the rat in the image, moments before the young woman was eliminated. Frightened, Cindy sets off in search of the group, but ends up stumbling across the mask of the young man dressed as the Statue of Liberty. As soon as she picks it up, the victim's head falls out, leaving Cindy in a panic, but everything gets worse when she looks away and finds the body of another one of her friends. Finally, the young woman sees the rat in front of her, who grabs a harpoon and prepares to attack her. Luckily, Cindy manages to run in time and locks the door on the other side, making fun of the monster for being slower than her. The problem is that the woman leans against the door to catch her breath, giving the rat the chance to hit her with the harpoon without any difficulty. Meanwhile, Pete and the rest of the group arrive in the control room, only to find Tommy knocked out by the television. What's more, they see an ominous message written in blood on the ceiling, saying a scream is a wish your heart makes. To make matters worse, the radio is damaged and there's no way to call the command center for help. The group doesn't know what to do next, when suddenly a hand grabs Selena's foot, revealing it to be Barry's, who has disobeyed the order to go below deck and hidden in the captain's cabin. The old man claims to know about the origin of the rat that is attacking the ferry, and its real name is Steamboat Willie. When Barry worked on ships during the 1950s, he heard about the legend of the rat that was created by Captain Walter, better known as Walt. While sailing at sea, Walt met Willie, a secret experiment in the shape of a mouse, very similar to Mickey Mouse. He was supposedly created to appeal to young people, but was discarded and taken as cargo on the Mortimer ferry. However, the captain raised him as a friend and the two traveled together across the sea. Tragically, a strong storm wiped out Walt and Willie was left alone on the ferry, hiding from everyone on the lower deck. However, he has been freed and now wants to eliminate anyone who crosses his path, for unknown reasons. Finally, Barry explains that even though it wasn't the same ship as Captain Walt's, what was left of it was reused on the new ferry as a way of saving money. With that, the curse of the rat has been brought along and everyone is under threat from Steamboat Willie. Now that they know the whole truth, Pete and the rest of the group decide to go to the engine room to get the flare guns and ask for help. Everyone hurries to get there, but first Pete grabs a pair of protective boots from one of the cupboards and hands them to Selena. After that, the group splits up in search of the flares, with Amber and Selena going one way, while Pete, Moses and Mateo go the other. On the way, the trio come across Dominique, who in some unknown way survived the Steamboat Willie attack. She warns them that the ship's piping isn't working and she needs their help to fix it before the machinery system is compromised. Pete and Moses go with her, but ask Mateo to stay in the corridor, as it could be dangerous. Arriving there, Pete finds the damaged pipe and tries to repair it, but in a surprise attack, Dominique knocks Moses out using a wrench. She then puts on a helmet in the shape of mouse ears and reveals that she is obeying Steamboat Willie's orders. Dominique reveals that the rat wants to take control of the ship, because he's looking for someone important who got lost at sea. Meanwhile, Steamboat Willie starts walking down the corridors, just above Amber and Selena. The two try to move on without attracting attention, but the nurse ends up stepping on a sharp nail on the floor. Before she can scream in pain, Selena covers her mouth and Amber tries to control herself, pointing to where the box with the flares is. Selena rushes to get them, but she hears a hiss and next to her, she finds the rat, who hands her a bouquet made of ears. The young woman screams in despair, but Amber takes advantage of the mouse's distraction and hits it in the left eye with a screwdriver. The rat fights back and attacks the nurse, but Selena throws him away with an iron bar. The two manage to escape from Willie, but discover that the flares are not in the emergency box. The truth is that Dominique caught them moments before, to stop the crew from disrupting Willie's plans. After explaining the whole evil plan, she takes the wrench and prepares to attack Pete, but she is interrupted by the arrival of the rat. The woman goes to Willie, but the rat is furious, and after removing the screwdriver stuck in his eye, he jumps at her. Without hesitating, the rat bites Dominique's neck and Pete takes the opportunity to grab the flares and escape. However, Moses says he's staying to finish off the rat once and for all and sends him and Mateo on the run. So, as soon as Pete leaves the engine room and takes the young man away, Moses sacrifices himself by firing the flare at the fuel tank. Thanks to this, the entire machine room explodes, hitting Willie and Dominique with the blast. Fortunately, Pete and Mateo manage to escape in time, as do Selena and Amber, who appear on the ceiling just above the room where they hid. The two try to help them escape, but the place begins to fill with water and the debris on the ceiling is too heavy for them to lift. Working together, Amber and Selena manage to open a small passage, which is just wide enough for Mateo to pass through. Pete helps the young man reach the opening, but Willie is still alive and bites his foot. Even so, Pete manages to save the young man, and seeing that he has nowhere to run, he challenges Willie the rat to face him one last time. Desperate, Selena asks him to come along, but Pete, now captain of the ship, tells the young woman to save herself, while he stays behind to stop the rat. Finally, Willie appears and the two of them face off underwater, while Selena and Amber are forced to flee. Despite Pete's sacrifice, Amber believes that the rat is still alive and will soon come to eliminate the rest of the crew. The two try to think of a way to confront it and Mateo shows them the photo he took of Barry, revealing that in addition to Captain Walt and Willie, there was a second rat. Everything suggests that it was she who fell into the sea during the storm and that Willie is looking for her. When she hears this, Selena has an idea to put an end to the rat and runs off in search of Cindy's suitcase. As soon as she picks it up, Selena finds a white dress with polka dots, very similar to the ones Minnie Mouse wore in the cartoons. This dress will be perfect for her plan, so she puts it on, with the aim of attracting Willie. After that, Amber and Mateo go to the outside of the ferry, when they see a ship passing close to the ferry. The nurse quickly waves to the captain, who waves back and sets off to rescue them. However, at the same moment, Amber hears a familiar hiss, and to her horror, she comes face to face with the still living rat. Holding a machete, he sets out to attack the nurse, who defends herself as best she can with an iron bar, but ends up stumbling to the floor. The rat seizes the chance to finish her off right then and there, but before he can, he hears another whistle and someone calling him. When he looks back, he finds Selena, wearing a hat in the shape of mouse ears and posing as his lost companion. Because one of its eyes is injured, the rat can't see properly and falls into the trap, heading towards Selena. As soon as it gets close, the young woman tries to hit it with a sledgehammer, but the rat is quicker and dodges the blows. Afterwards, Selena runs to help Amber, but ends up leaving Mateo alone and the rat pushes the young man off the ferry. The young woman goes after him, but also trips and is left hanging over the edge of the ship. Willie picks up the iron bar and prepares to drop it into the sea, but the sight of the young woman reminds him of his companion, missing in the storm. So instead of pushing her, Willie pulls her out with the iron bar, saving her life. Then, in a final attempt to win her over, the rat gives her a flower, this time a real one. However, Amber wakes up and screams at Willie, who, while distracted, is attacked by Selena, who hits him on the head with a pair of scissors. Steamboat Willie tries to resist, but he only says goodbye and falls off the ship into the sea. Finally, the rat is defeated and Selena rushes off to look for Mateo, who has managed to hold onto a dumpster and is safe. Hours later, the ship arrives to rescue with Mateo's father, who thanks Selena and Amber for keeping his son safe. Before leaving, the young man says he has found Selena's notebook and gives it back to her. After this terrible experience, the young woman is determined not to give up on her goals and decides to stay in New York. What she doesn't know is that far away, Steamboat Willie's body turns up along with the garbage collected at sea. Not only that, but the rat is still alive, and his missing companion appears before him. Now, New York will be terrorized by a couple of rats, who won't rest until they take revenge on all of humanity. Later, in the command center, Mike hears a call for help coming from the radio. The call comes from Pete, who managed to survive the confrontation with Willie and is asking for help because he's trapped inside the ship. Mike then decides to go after him to save him, but whether he managed to find Pete remains a mystery.